I thank Mr. Chiari for his briefing. I now give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements. I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, we wish to thank Khalid Chiari for his briefing. For several months now, the entire world has had the opportunity to observe the way that the United States has been continuing to deliberately foment tensions around the friendly nation of Venezuela under the pretext of combating drug trafficking and the terrorist threat. Illegally destroying at the same time the civilian vessels in the Caribbean Sea. We, during the previous Security Council meeting, we all had an opportunity to see the fact that this artificial smoke screen is concealing the goal of U.S. military groups being shored up and the delivery of exerting tension on an independent state whose policy is not to the liking of Washington. It seems that the White House decided to remove from the mothballs the previously embraced practice of portraying combating terrorism as justification for blatant aggression and intervention in the affairs of sovereign states. And this time, the so-called foreign terrorist organization has been labeled as being the legitimate government of the Bolivarian Republic. Their attempts to convince us all of the mendacious view that decision of the U.S. authorities alone is enough in order to transform a sovereign state into a criminal enterprise, any acts of force against which can now be called a law enforcement operation and the defense of national interests. We see no point in delving on the absurd nature of the U.S. pseudo-legal methods, given how how significantly they fly in the face of international law and are inconsistent, especially given that in Washington themselves have sincerely recognized this. The statement of the U.S. President on the 16th of December does not need any additional interpretation. This is a direct claim on the natural wealth and the soil of another state, and an open, if not to state, flagrant bringing to bear of military, political, and economic pressure with the aim of changing an inconvenient regime. The United States is already shoring up their practices with attacks of open piracy with the aim of seizing sovereign natural resources, which we all saw compellingly taking place in recent weeks. We firmly condemn the seizure by U.S. troops of petroleum tankers and the effective imposition of a blockade on Venezuela. The acts by the U.S. side run counter to all key norms of international law, including the UN Convention on Law of the Sea, Security Council resolutions, and the Charter itself of the United Nations. Colleagues, the illegal U.S. blockade on the coast of Venezuela is the most clear and absolutely real act of aggression. And the responsibility of Washington is also evident for the catastrophic consequences of such cowboy-like conduct for the residents of the country, which is now blockaded. Unfortunately, we have every reason to believe that these are not one-off acts by the U.S. vis-a-vis Venezuela. This intervention, which is unfolding, can become a template for future acts of force against Latin American states in accordance with the so-called Trump corollary and the Monroe Doctrine, which was enshrined in the recently published U.S. national security policy. And this is a clear message for all countries in the region who are striving to conduct a sovereign policy and to independently determine their own economic, political, and cultural system. In Washington, they are ready to respect your independence and take your interests into account only if you are willing to tailor them to the interests of the United States and to conduct a policy which is convenient to and beneficial to them. As soon as you attempt to try to benefit your own people, then then you would be treated the same way that Venezuela is being treated. So don't ask for whom the bell tolls. The bell tolls for you. We reaffirm our solidarity with the Venezuelan people as they face the trials before them. We support the policy of the government of Mr. Maduro, which is geared towards the protection of the national interest and sovereignty of the homeland. We believe that all of those for whom international law is not mere noise have an obligation to stand with Venezuela. We note that Caracas has consistently demonstrated a willingness to engage in dialogue, to cooperate with Washington, both in terms of effectively coordinating acts for countering narcotics trafficking, as well as to combat real, not imagined terrorism. By all accounts, support for a peaceful means of settling dispute and multilateral cooperation in these areas are something which are being advocated by all countries in the region, and yet, for some reason, for Washington, this is falling on deaf ears, and they are obstinately embracing their policy of destruction, which is fraught with grave consequences for the region and the world as a whole. We regret the fact that the new U.S. administration, which has been sober and pragmatic in its approach when it comes to other crisis situations, when it comes to Venezuela, it remains mired in approaches which itself actively criticizes. We trust that common sense will indeed prevail and that Washington will manage in time to halt, to prevent a fatal error which inevitably will undermine long-term U.S. national interests. The full-fledged armed conflict in Latin America, which remains for now a zone of peace, is the last thing that humankind needs right now. Humankind to whom President Trump promised an end to conflict. For now, unfortunately, the situation is not improving, and the United States, alas, continues to sow chaos in the Western Hemisphere, largely annihilating the benefits of the initiatives undertaken by the new U.S. leader and casting doubt on his sincere intentions in the global context. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of China.
President, China appreciates the Slovenia presidency for convening this emergency meeting